Hey folks, this is Ben Yessel. This is Ben Yessel. One more video tonight. This is just going to be a video game review of Exiled Kingdoms. And again, I'm actually I made it to level 10, so I don't know how far along I am in the game, but I still have quite a ways to go. I'm still kind of in the earlier stages of the game. Still having, I mean, I've kind of dealt with some um, somewhat more middle level areas, but they were a little bit too tough for me. So, but I've at least been able to handle myself in some of the areas that are a little bit harder than just the super basic, easy areas. Um, so basically, I can handle skeletons and orcs and elite orcs, even ghosts. There are some guys that are a little bit tough still. That's kind of where I'm at. So I'm a little bit further into the game. That's not super far into the game. And I got to tell you, it really is a very, very good um, Android game. And I haven't played anything on my Mac or my new PC as far as video games. I just haven't for a while. And you know, I have my reasons. I have my reasons, I suppose. It's just, it's nice not having to pay a lot of money to play a good game. That's the best way of putting it. I miss the days when I could just play something like Baldur's Gate for the first time, and it just was over and over again. It's still the greatest game of all time. I think it still is. Even though I still have got a lot of other ideas from fantasy from other sources, just in terms of video games, it's still the best one. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, still the best. The original versions, the Beamdog versions stink. At least Beamdog, the first Baldur's Gate was passable. The second Baldur's Gate, at least the third ball is terrible. The farther it went, the more Beamdog didn't know what they were doing. But as I mentioned before, but getting back to Exiled Kingdoms, it feels. I want to go into in depth here because if you guys are curious about this game, you can get the game for free up to level 8 or so, and you can play a warrior or I think is it cleric or rogue. Well, you can play two different classes, and the free version you can get to level 8, and there's only certain areas you can go to. If you pay $5, is it? Four? No, I think it's $4 or $5. You get everything, the full game, all the, so everything's open. Okay, so I have the full game. I was like, this is worth it. This is a great game. I kid you not, there's a lot of places to go. Even when you're starting out and not very powerful, there's still a fair bit of stuff you can do. It's not exactly easy to get way out into the boonies. Or at least if you do that and you find that you're too advanced an area, you definitely want to come back to an easier area. But again, the more you level up, I mean, by level 10, there's a pretty good chunk of ground that I feel pretty comfortable being in and trying to solve quests around. So let me talk about the good stuff first. And there's lots to mention here. I like how it feels like a little bit like the Infinity Game Engine, although it's different. It's not Infinity Game Engine, but I like how it looks. It looks kind of like an older game like Baldur's Gate that you're looking down, and it has kind of the graphics are somewhat similar, right? You still have three-dimensional stuff going on, but it's the only thing is, of course, is that in Baldur's Gate that you kind of saw behind, you're able to see the character even if they went behind a tree, because you make out the outline of the person. In Exiled Kingdoms, it's kind of like the character kind of disappears for a sec until you bring him away from a tree. So there are these little things that certainly Baldur's Gate had better graphics. Of course, this is a cheap game. It's very very low cost game. So the other thing too is that, the combat isn't like, it's a little bit more hmm, it's just a little bit clunkier, right? It's not super hard to deal with, really. You're using this trackpad that you can go in all different directions, and you can get right up, too close to a creature and hit it with melee weapons, or you can stay back and fire arrows at it, kind of thing, or whatever you want to do. There's a lot of ways you can do it. It's just that the firing arrows and stuff is a lot nicer in terms of, you know, I've noticed that when you're using a melee weapon and you're trying to get close to a character, an evil guy to hack it at it. There are times when if you're facing the wrong way, or if you're close but you're just not close enough, kind of stuff. That's what can be a little bit annoying. There's kind of an autocorrect that happens if you're close enough to a creature, and then there's things like this ramming thing that you can do. It's kind of like you just make this beeline, just you go through a bunch of bad guys, but that strategy only works sometimes, and I don't know, it's just a little bit clunky in terms of combat. But again, it's amazing for what it costs. But it's not always clear which areas are going to be too hard for you. You kind of have to do this by trial and error. There's certainly websites that show you some of this stuff, but they don't really go by the level that you level up. It's like, easy. What I saw was just easiest to hardest. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like, nah. I don't know what level I'm going to get to, but I imagine at this point, I could get to level 50 or something like that, like a huge number like that, If 10 is just kind of like, I'm doing better than when I started, but so the leveling up, it doesn't take too long to level up, really, to be too honest. I mean, if you get the farther you go, the longer it takes. You can get quickly through level 1 through like 6 or 7 in no time at all. And then, so, but yeah, it's just a little bit vague sometimes where to go, what to do first, so it's open, it's non-linear that way. It's open, even though there is a main storyline. I think that's very intriguing. It's very good. In fact, the main storyline is so good that it keeps you playing. So, they have a very strong, good main storyline. The other stuff that you do is passably okay. I mean, some of it's pretty interesting. Some of it's just like, there's a lot of collecting of things, which isn't so bad. You get to see, whenever exploring, and there's also a fair amount of visual variety. Fair amount. I mean, if you go from city to city or town to town, the buildings do look different. Especially this one place off in the west, like Freetown or something like that. I don't know. But there's one place that has just a lot of red roofs. There's more brick. So just all the red makes it feel different than the, kind of split frame, English or Tudor style, whatever, white plastered houses, that kind of look. And then there's other cities that just, again, have a different look. And you have like some areas that are very lush and beautiful and flowers and green grass, and other places are drier. And you have some snowy areas, and you have, yeah, I mean, it has some variety. I played a game called, like, I think they made a review of this, Vampires Fall. The whole game is, at least I only played the first half, which is, I won the first part of the game. I just never finished the second part, up in the north snowy part, but it was just gloomy the entire game. I don't know how I made it as far as I did. It's just gloomy and just dark and just bleh. But this game is a little bit nicer. It's a little brighter. It feels more like a Dungeons and Dragons, Baldur's Gate type game. There's a lot of dungeons, and then there's forests, and then there's, different, terrain like that. There's deserts and stuff. And the thing is, though, is that there's also a lot of kill a goblin, kill an orc, guy or whatever, kill a skeleton, kill a spider. It's a lot of little battles all over the place. They just keep respawning, and enough so that it's like it can feel a little bit like a what's the word I'm looking for here? Not not dungeon crawler. It's a little bit like that. It's more of a hack and slash. There's another term I'm trying to think of here, um, but a lot of the game does revolve around. I mean, you do have quests and things, but a lot of the game does revolve around these little, respawning lesser or comparatively lesser um, enemies, and wolves and stuff, and bears, and a lot of the, and so if you don't mind just that constant bad guy, and I do mean they respawn a lot, and maybe not quite as much as, I don't know if you guys have played Morrowind, Elder Scrolls Morrowind, but yeah, I remember playing that quite a while back, and those darn birds, man. Like, I got to the point where I was just one hack of a really powerful sword in Morrowind. Kill the bird, kill the bird. It's like swatting flies in Africa. They're everywhere, right? So you just keep swatting them. It became an annoyance. So sometimes that respawning of yeah, goblins and orcs and skeletons, it can get a little bit old. I've killed almost 2,000. By this point, even I'm level 10. I've killed almost 2,000 of these little lesser little guys, or the yeah. And just to compare that with Baldur's Gate, and you had a party in Baldur's Gate in this game, in the Exiled Kingdoms, you only have two people, yourself and one other person in your party. And so, I mean, in Baldur's Gate, you had a lot more of the game that involved conversations, choices you make, talking to people, whatever. You get experience points from all kinds of things. So it is a little bit more. There's not as many combat situations in Baldur's Gate. There are some, sure, but not comparatively as many. I mean, just there's another game. I think it's Wizardry 8. I never finished. I don't know if I'll ever get back to my old game. But that's literally like 95% of the game. Wizardry 8. It's just that. It's like that. It's the grind. I'll use the term I was trying to think of was grind. It's the here we go again. It's just mind numbing, right? So that can really turn off some people. It's not as bad as Wizardry 8. Wizardry 8 has its side to it that I actually liked a fair bit. Even some of the graphics were kind of nice and a little bit funny and things. I don't know. I've yet to get back more into Wizardry 8, but it had its charm, I suppose. But anyway, there's some more things to mention about this game. It's also that some of these quests can be a little frustrating to try to figure out where this person is you're trying to find. And there's the question of how much gold you're going to get back from finishing this quest. And then some of the healing potions that look like they might be more to your liking are a little bit pricier to buy a lot of. And so there's always that question of, do you buy the health potions or you just go with you naturally have this natural healing thing you can use like so many times, before it runs out. Then you need to find, you can't just sleep out in the open. You have to find an inn, to sleep at. That costs gold. So it's like, sleeping at an inn is between sleeping at an inn and getting health potions to help you out in some cases. There's always a strain on your money. And so there's always this need for more money, and also upgrading, of course, your equipment and stuff. But I'm not saying there's not enough gold in the game. I think what I'm trying to say is that um, it can feel a little bit discouraging. Even on I have it on easy mode right now. This game doesn't hold your hand too much, but it's not as tough in some respects as Divinity Original Sin really made it hard for you to get on on past the first day of the game. It was hard to get past Cyciel. This is talking about the first Divinity Original Sin. This game it's you're much more mobile. You can move around wherever you want to. You're just going to find that a lot of the areas in the middle of the map are easier than the outskirts, right? Um, so to speak. So it's um, some of these quests are tricky. It's hard to figure them out. It's hard to solve them when you finish a quest. It actually feels like you accomplished something. Feels that's why it's you know these are not sometimes these are a little bit tricky quests, but it's just a good feeling, right? Sometimes, but you feel a little bit drained, a little exhausted. So you're like, maybe I'll just save it and come back to it later at that point. But so it's a really fun game. Let me see. There's a little bit of the game doesn't tell you always what things to hold on to and what things to sell. So there's that. Um, I haven't figured out yet how to have my second guy, if he's a thief, how he can disable traps. So there's a little bit of game mechanics that um, I'm wondering about. So I'm wondering, the only person who can disable traps, if I can even do that, is my guy. And if he's not a very good guy as far as disabling traps, you just have to run into a lot of traps to avoid them. And you can technically avoid traps a lot of times. So it's not the end of the world. It's not. The game is a little bit easier on you regarding traps or getting around them easier than in, say, Baldur's Gate. Or in Baldur's Gate, well, some places you needed to have a way of disarming traps. I think to get to at least to the good stuff, or just hang on by the skin of your teeth and get your health almost all taken out by a big, fireball type trap. But anyway, it is getting late. I need to wrap this video up sometime soon. But there are certainly games I enjoy more than this game. I mean, more for like my Mac or laptop PC. And it's just because how can I put this? To compare this with another game, I don't know. The Exiled Kingdoms, other than certain colors like green, there are certain areas that are very, very vividly green, for instance, or maybe kind of red. But there are a lot of coloring. There's a lot of coloring in the game that is not especially bright. So there's a lot of muted tones, or a fair bit of that. And if you're playing a game with a lot of muted tones, it's just a question of what you prefer. But I personally get more into a game when there's a lot more vivid colors going on. So I'm maybe a little bit disappointed so far, and well, it's just kind of traditional-ish terrain. I know what a snowy mountainous area looks like, or snow plain, or whatever. I know what a desert looks like. I know what forest looks like. I know what plains look like, or meadows. These are all very familiar kinds of terrain, and so it's not especially imaginative that way. And there's not. It's like I say, the main quest and some of the side quests are very good. Especially that main quest is so good, so good. And there's a fair amount of there's fantasy creatures and things. This is kind of very straightforward, not super imaginative or immersive, but pretty good fantasy world. It's respectable, and I love how it's so you can kind of go a lot of different places. You don't have to do this one thing. Linear games like that just suck unless they're really 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 good. Like Loom was so good that it could be linear because it was so beautiful. And when you got to the next place, it just felt amazing. So I'm gonna wrap this up here at this point. I think I've covered the bases pretty well in this game. Um, the Exiled Kingdoms. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it probably at least for Android games. If we're just talking Android games, I give it a 9 out of 10, especially considering what it's cost. Um, of course, if I'm looking, it's unfair to do this, but if you're looking at how it compares to all the other PC games I played, well, obviously it's an Android game, but it still stands up pretty well. It's still like easily a 7, or maybe even an 8. It's that good in terms of. I mean, I want to play this game. It can be discouraging. It can be frustrating when you're just, man, I'm spending so much on health. I thought this area would be doable, but nah, it's just a little too hard. I'm just trying to survive. So there's always that. It's more of a very much a reality of death being reality in this game. In some places. Anyway, even on easy mode. Leave your thoughts and comments below. I'll catch you later. Take care. Bye.